What's up, MFFLs? Harrison Graham back with another video. Before we jump into today's show, the offseason coverage, the rumors, it's heating up. So this is the time to subscribe. If you are a true Dallas Mavericks fan, then hit that sub button here on Mavericks Today. We're increasing our coverage. Video yesterday, doing one today. We'll have one tomorrow and Friday, I believe, as well. YouTube.com/MavsTV. Subscribe, and let's jump into today's video. I'm Harrison Graham here on Mavericks Today by Chat Sports. On today's show, 5 bigs the Mavs could trade for. Remember a week or two ago we did 5 free agent targets at the center position. Well, today we're going to focus on some trade targets at that spot. And let's be honest, the conference finals made it abundantly clear that the Mavs have got to upgrade at center. When you get embarrassed by Kevon Looney, that's just not going to cut it. No offense to Dwight Powell, actually very much offense to Dwight Powell. You got to upgrade from that spot. Again, I'll say it, I like Maxi Kleber as a backup, but he can't be playing 30 minutes per game in a playoff series. So with that being said, we'll jump into 5 trade targets at the center position. Before we do that, though, who do you want? Who do you want the Mavericks to trade for at the 5 spot? I don't care who it is. I'm curious what you guys think. Obviously, I do actually care, but I want to know more so from you guys down in the comments. Name a center, a big, that the Mavs should go out and trade for. All right, we'll break down 5 guys on today's show. Number 1, a familiar name, especially when he was with the Houston Rockets and a player the Mavs were interested in free agency a few years ago. That is one Clint Capela. Now, there is a report out there that the Atlanta Hawks are open to trading anybody except for Trae Young. That leaked a couple of days ago, and if that's true, maybe Clint Capela could be made available. This is a walking double-double. Now, obviously, Capela, the main part of his offensive game is just rolling to the basket and finishing on oops and layups and offensive rebounds and stuff like that. But what he really brings that I like, number 1, rebounding. Luka cannot continue to be this team's best rebounder. He already has to do too much. He grabs 12 a game, Clint Capela does, so that's very nice. Gives you some rim protection as well, which I like. He's mobile enough that, on switches, you can kind of, hold his own there, can Capela. So I think overall, he's a clear upgrade, a starting caliber center in the NBA. So for most of these players, we cooked up a trade idea for you guys. So this one, it's a little busy here. Clint Capela and Danilo Gallinari for Tim Hardaway Jr., Dwight Powell, see ya, Josh Green, and a 2025 first-round pick. Maybe it's enough, maybe it's not. Atlanta gets some more wing depth with Hardaway and Josh Green. They get, a big that can come off their bench if they want him to, and Dwight Powell, and a future first. Maybe it's enough. I don't think Dallas would offer that much more than this. All right, next up, Jonas Valanciunas, who is definitely in the starting 5 of Mavs killers in the NBA. He always has career nights against Dallas. Also had pretty much a career year for the New Orleans Pelicans, 18 and 11, really good offensive player. Now, he's not a great defensive player. He's a good rebounder, but he's not a good defensive player. You get him stuck on pick and roll switches. That's way more problematic than a guy like Clint Capela getting stuck on a switch. So you would have to factor that in. He would increase your rebounding. Might lower your defensive adequacy, though, so I think that plays a role as well. He would definitely solve the rebounding issues, though, and I think that's a big part of this. Any big you go out and get has to be a plus rebounder. You can't get a center that plays 30 minutes a game that grabs 6 boards. That's just not going to cut it, and that's kind of what you were getting from Dwight Powell during the regular season. Got to get 8, 9, 10-plus rebounds from the 5 spot, and Jonas Valanciunas can definitely do that, and he can actually score at a pretty good rate as well. Like I said, almost 18 points per game this past season. So here's a trade idea for Valanciunas. Davis Bertans, a first and a second for Valanciunas. That feels decent, right? The Pelicans get a floor spacer who can score in Davis Bertans. They also get a future first and a second while dumping Valanciunas. It's not the best offer, but again, the Mavs don't have, incredible assets. They have decent assets. They have tradable contracts like Davis Bertans, but keep that in mind. Before we jump to our next trade target, quick reminder here to subscribe to the channel. We're ramping up our coverage, the latest news, rumors, trade buzz, free agency, draft coverage as well. It's all coming your way throughout the offseason. So subscribe, share that link below. It's youtube.com/MavsTV. All right, let's get to Richaun Holmes here, who's been linked to the Mavs before this past offseason, actually. I wanted them to sign Richaun Holmes, but I think looking back on it, the reality is with Kristaps Porzingis under contract, they weren't going to make a big splash at center last offseason. Obviously, Porzingis is now gone. He's in Washington, and as we saw in the playoffs, the need for a quality big is abundantly clear. Now, you look at Holmes, maybe rise and fall is a bit much. More or less volume is what I would say this year when you compare the stats. Almost 3 less shot attempts per game. The points dropped down about 4. Rebounding dropped. Blocks dropped. But you look at the efficiency, it actually went up. The minutes were just down. And, Sacramento went out and got Domantas Sabonis. That obviously impacted Richaun Holmes' level of play. I think he would actually flourish with Dallas because he would be by far the best big. And I think he'd play 30, 32 minutes per game for this basketball team. Elite roller, good rebounder. I think he'd be a pretty good fit with Luka Doncic. So here's a trade idea for Holmes. Holmes to Dallas for a $10.8 million trade exception and first-round pick on draft night. Remember, the Mavs can trade their pick this year, but it has to be a draft night trade. That's the only way they're allowed to trade it due to the Porzingis trade that traded their first last year and next year. But could this be a draft night trade? I think it's at least a possibility. Now, rate the fit of Richaun Holmes in Dallas. Offensively, I think it'd be really good because he's a great roller, and even with Dwight Powell we saw this year, he was catching a lot of lobs from Luka Doncic. Holmes is a lot better than Dwight Powell, so grade it A, B, C, D, or F. I think it'd be like a B, B+. I think his fit would be pretty good. Not as good defensively as like a Clint Capela or a Rudy Gobert, who we'll talk about in a second, but offensively, I think the fit is actually really good, and he's a much better rebounder than what you currently have. All right, let's talk Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz. And actually, a recent report from Mark Stein suggests that despite buzz over the last couple of months, Dallas not expected to pursue Rudy Gobert. And quite frankly, cool. I don't want Rudy Gobert. Not that he's not a good player, but I think he's a little bit soft mentally. And number 2, this fan base can't stand him. I was there at Game 5 when Mavericks fans were chanting, Rudy sucks, in the midst of a 30-point blowout for Dallas. I don't want Gobert. He's going to be 30 years old. He's on a max contract. I don't know. Give me a center that makes $12 to $15 million per year who can rebound, rim protect, and score a little bit. You can find those guys. You don't need Rudy Gobert at $30+ million per year. I don't know. I get wary that 2 years from now he's just going to fall off a cliff and not be the same guy. Like I said, he's soft mentally. Him and Donovan Mitchell don't get along. There's questions about how he fits in locker rooms. I just think there's too many red flags for a guy who's on a max contract. So that's kind of where I'm at with him. If it happens, I'll probably end up talking myself into it, but at the end of the day, that has not happened yet, and I would prefer it did not happen. What do you guys think, though? Do you want Rudy Gobert on the Mavericks? Type Y for yes, type in for no. Curious to see where you guys weigh in. I think a lot of y'all are going to agree with me, but hey, maybe you won't. We'll see down in the comments section. Last guy, another player who's been linked to Dallas forever because he's from the area, Myles Turner, who's entering the last year of his contract with the Indiana Pacers. It's been years and years of being linked to him, and I think he'd like to play here. And, could Rick Carlisle, an old pal, do the Mavs a solid in a trade? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. Last year dealt with a foot injury, missed a lot of time, only played in 42 games, so maybe that's hurt his trade value a bit, and maybe Dallas could benefit. 13 points, 7 boards. He's not as good of a rebounder as a Capela, but his shot blocking is excellent. Almost 3 a game. He's really good at protecting the rim, and he can stretch the floor, shoot that mid-range, shoot the three-pointer on occasion as well. So the floor spacing is a benefit with him compared to these other bigs, which I actually kind of like as well. He can roll or he can pop when he's playing that PNR, PNP game with Luka Doncic, which I think having that versatility offensively would be a nice touch. Now, another thing with Turner that you have to factor in is he was not happy, according to reports, playing under Rick Carlisle this year. There was also that whole Sabonis-Turner thing. Obviously, they traded Sabonis, so they might be more reluctant to moving a Myles Turner. But if he goes to Pacers brass is like, hey, it's the last year of my deal, I'm not going to re-sign here, then trading him is probably the smart move if you're Indiana because they're kind of rebuilding anyway. And not that he's old, but is he someone who wants to be a part of a rebuild? I don't know. I think he'd like to come back home, play for the Mavericks, and I think he knows that he'd have a pretty big role here as well. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he came to a couple of Mavericks playoff games at the AAC. I need to double check that, but I distinctly remember him being at least at one. So, hey, maybe another sign that he's interested. All right, trade idea for Turner. Didn't do one for Gobert because no one wants him here. Myles Turner, TJ McConnell to Dallas for Davis Bertans, Dwight Powell, and a first-round pick. Not the best offer, but it's for an expiring deal. Last year of his contract, I think if he makes it clear he wants out, that is something that could work. All right, so there you go. Those are the 4 trade ideas. Which trade idea did you like the most? If you need to go back and look at each one, you can do so. Type 1 for the first trade, 2 for the second, and so forth, 3 or 4. Let us know in the comments, and remember, more videos to come here on Dallas Mavericks Today.